Right, so we are reviewing submissions today for written work. So let's start with exercise 5, the informal uh, email. And this is from June 2025, paper 1, variant 1. Let's read the question first. You recently went on a school trip to a museum in another city. Write an email to a friend about the school trip to the museum. In your email, you should explain what you did in class to prepare for the museum trip. Describe what you liked about the museum trip. Tell your friend about a problem with the museum trip. Okay. Okay, let's read through this. Hi, Ibrahim. Hope you had a great weekend. Sorry for not writing to you for a while. I had been busy. I'm guessing you're suggesting have. Okay. I had recently gone on a school trip to the Museum of the Future in Dubai. I left for school and arrived at by 8:15. Our journey began in the classroom where we discussed the museum's purpose. We reached the museum by 10 and were welcomed by the tour guide. The museum was a mesmerizing piece of architecture. I really loved how the different levels were organized. My favorites were the ground level, levels 2, 4, and 5. The ground level featured flying penguins and robot baristas. Level 2 and 5 were mainly AI, near future technologies, and space exploration. Level 4 housed the DNA of existing and extinct species. However, I felt that the trip was very short for the size of the museum. We could have explored more features if we had more time. Take care, Afan. Okay, what's your word count on this? 160 to the dot. So for the first point, all you mentioned, right, explain what you did in class to prepare for the museum trip. And so for that, all you mentioned, our journey began in the classroom where we discussed the museum's purpose. I mean, it works, sure. You have given much more to point number 2, which is describe what you liked about the museum trip. Now, one thing I want to do is put space over here, right? Because it's not a hyphen, but it's a dash. You want to leave space between the words. Then you've got flying penguins and robot barista. Was there just one barista or numerous? More than,
So I don't remember, but I remember that there were.
let's say, baristas, just to maintain that plural part with the penguins. And I mean, if you're saying a robot barista, like you have mentioned so maybe there was just one, so I'll leave it at that. I mean, it's not wrong. Grammatically, it's not wrong, and factually, I don't know, so we'll leave it at that. Acha. Levels 2 and 5 were mainly AI, near future technologies, and space exploration. Okay, fine. So that's fine. Uh, However, I felt the trip was very short for. I mean, instead of talking about like physical size, for what the museum had to offer. So what are we doing? We are cutting 3 words and we are adding 4. So that brings us to 161, which is fine. Yeah, it looks good, apart from that minor bit. And I'll return that to you. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Google wants this to be a have. Now, what's the difference? If you're saying have, or I have been busy, and so I had, so I have not written to you for a while, right? Which means that your busyness has continued up to this point, right? Grammatically speaking, in in the tense, you're writing present perfect. I have been busy. If you've written had been busy, meaning that you started off being busy in the past and you ended being busy in the past. And so at the time of not writing, so at the time of writing the letter, you are not busy. Whereas, I mean, you had gotten free before you came about to writing the letter. Whereas if you write had been, like have been busy, means that you were busy up until the point of writing the letter at least, right? Just a while before.
Okay.
So technically both work, right? But I guess like sort of have been busy works better because like if I got free earlier, then I should have written earlier perhaps, right? Unless I was like watching the latest episode of Freyrin season 2 or something, right? Which I remember I haven't been keeping up with that. Okay. So yeah, returning that to you. And now for Ayama. Ayama, are you there? Okay. All right. Hi, Sarah. How are you? By the way, word count. No, word count, not whatever that was. 158. Okay. And zooming in. Hi, Sarah. How are you? I hope you're doing great. Okay. This should be. Is it a full stop or is it? What are they saying? Yeah. So full stop after great and comma after well. You put a comma, I think most likely a typo, right? The comma and the full stop are right next to each other. But yeah, Google is not going to let that slide. Okay. Well, I recently went on a trip from my school. It was a great experience. I really want to share it with you. So our teacher told us if we could score plus 85 on our test, she will take us to the museum as celebration. I really enjoyed the trip. It was not boring like other school trips, it was educational, and the best part was that it had a very helpful guide, Mr. Ahmed. He was incredible. He answered silly questions. He also give us tricks to memorize dates. This was very much needed. The only thing I don't like about the trip was the time when the bus arrived. It was 1 hour late, and most of the students were thinking the trip was cancelled. But thankfully, it wasn't. It was an amazing trip. And I'm waiting for your response. I feel that you were having the way you've written this is that you were having a conversation in your head and you just typed it out that way. Is that what happened? You were talking to yourself while thinking, and that's how you typed it out. Probably. Because that's how it sort of appears, right? Well, so, right? All of that. So I would want to rephrase most of this, right? Make it like keep it informal. You have the content, but it's like it seems like an info like the point is it's an informal email to a friend. So in real life, it doesn't matter. Cambridge is checking your language skills, so it does matter. And so even the informal email needs to have a certain decorum to it, right? Uh, so I'm going to rewrite this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, in fact, I'm going to leave this part out and I'm going to put it in here. So, how are you? I hope you're doing great. That's fine. I'm going to put square brackets from here till here. All right, so that's the part I'm rephrasing. With my school, our teacher had promised us to take us to the museum as a reward if we manage to score 85 plus on our recent test. But it we made it. The trip was a great experience and I really want to share it with you. So that's a lot of introduction and I mean, despite that, I'm just rephrasing over here, but one thing I feel is that you're missing what you did to prepare, like what you did in class to prepare for the museum. So, I mean, I've reworded that, rephrased, rearranged what you've written, but I still feel that if we, not do this because it doesn't seem relevant, and instead of doing this part, we talk about what we did to prepare. So what you're giving over here is not preparing to go to the museum, but the reason why you went to the museum, right? It was as a reward by your teacher or whatever the scenario was. And so what I feel is you're missing out on bullet point number one. So what we need really is how you prepared. So we let's take the uh, recently. I mean, we could use that score scenario. So we recently learned about the history of textiles or cloth making in class. The teacher gave us a quiz on the topic and promised to take us to the textile museum if we managed to score over 85. Now, with that, it sort of implies that that is the preparation. So you learned about the history of cloth making and then you were given a quiz. It is sort of implied, hopefully, like if for example we didn't have any of this, if we didn't have any of this, oops, yeah, so that's not helping. Going into editing mode and right. So now tell me, does this seem like to fit into bullet point number one? Explain what you did in class to prepare for the museum trip. Afan, you could, give your feedback to that as well.
Yes.
So we can go with that. Okay. Now I'm going to obviously retain all of that because that is your submission and that is your work. So I'm also going to strike it out. So I'll do that, but it's still there. You can probably read it. Okay. I really enjoyed the trip. It was not boring like other school trips. It was education. The best part was that we had, not it, the trip didn't have a very helpful guide. We had a very helpful guide, Mr. Ahmed. Right? You technically like don't need to name him, but sure, why not? He was incredible. We can use a colon. He answered silly questions and also gave us, no, taught us tricks to memorize dates. Right? It was very much needed. Sure, I mean, in context to the fact that you did that in class, so perhaps the only thing I didn't, not don't, it's past tense. The only thing I didn't like our trip was the time when the bus arrived. Again, you're putting in a comma, I'll take that as a typo. It was 1 hour late, and most of the students were thinking that the trip was cancelled, or better, you could say, had been cancelled. And what you can do here is you can put in a full stop, you could capitalize the but, and but, comma, thankfully, comma, it wasn't, full stop. So a bit of dramatic effect over there. It was an amazing trip. You've already mentioned that. And we don't need the will. I am eagerly waiting for your response. Full stop. And I'm full stop. Okay, so that looks better to me. Hopefully, it looks better to you as well. And I'll return that to you. And with that, we're done with exercise 5. Moving on to exercise 6. Okay. In class, you have been discussing whether employees should be required to work for a maximum of 4 days a week, giving them 3 days of free time. Yes. No more discussion. Okay. Here are some comments from your classmates. People would be happier. Would they earn less? So that's not so much of a counter argument as a concerned question. Everyone would get more done, which is true, right? And the company would need more stuff. Why would they need more stuff when you're getting work done in less time? Anyway, now write an article for your school magazine giving your views, these ideas and your own ideas, etc., etc. Okay. Should employees work for only 4 days a week? Right. Now, I haven't read the rest, but you could possibly go with as a 4 day work week work. Just a suggestion, right? Because articles need a catchy sort of, right? So you need to, I mean, your article is simply stating what it is, like the heading, not the article, but the heading. Oh, by the way, so we have 160 again on the dot. Many people believe employees should work only 4 days a week instead of 5. Some actually even work 6. But is this a good idea? So you've got that rhetorical question and that hook to begin with. Good. Firstly, a shorter week could make workers happier and less stressed. With an extra day to relax or spend time with their family, they would feel refreshed. As a result, they might get more work done as they would need to finish the work in a shorter time period, which is true, right? Additionally, employees will have more time to learn new skills which they can implement in the work they do, or just, more time to hobbies and lazing around. But yes, that too. However, there are some concerns. Some people worry that workers might earn less money, which can cause financial problems. In addition, companies might need to hire more staff to cover the extra day off, increasing the business costs. Despite these challenges, a 4 day work week could be beneficial if salaries remain the same. A better work life balance could lead to happier and more productive employees. Good. Can I do anything with this? So you stated your opinion at the end. You had given these opinions and elaborated on them well, and I don't feel like I need to do anything. Yeah, good job. Good job. I mean, we could perhaps sort of, maybe a word or two vocabulary if you're really looking for something to do. Feel, revitalized, or rejuvenated. So using those fat words, no? Oh, it's an E. Right, because we're writing semi-formal, it's for a school magazine. So they would feel revitalized or rejuvenated. Hmm. You could use time period, or you could say time span, or you could say uh, they could complete work with a shorter deadline. I mean, again, I'm just putting in suggestions. I'm not, crossing out what you've done because it works. Yeah, yeah, good job. I'll return that to you. So 142, the first thing, Ima, is you're missing a head. That's the first thing I notice. And so I'm going to be a bit lazy about this, and I'm going to use the same one I suggested to the one I suggested to a font. Point is, you need a headline for your article. So recently there's been debate about whether employees should work only 4 days a week and enjoy 3 days off. While this idea sounds attractive, it has both advantages and disadvantages. On the positive side, employees would have more time to relax and spend time with their families. They could also develop hobbies or socialize with friends, which may reduce stress and improve mental health. As a result, workers might feel more motivated and productive during working hours. Right, so that is a rephrasal of everyone will get more done. So that works, yes. However, if employees work fewer days, they may need to complete the same amount of work in less time. Uh, you're taking that as a con, okay? This will increase pressure and make working each day more exhausting. Some companies might also struggle to manage the workload efficiency. Uh, you kind of missed the points that are given, and as we talked about, like we sort of understand by now that we need to. So you haven't mentioned the company needing more staff and earning less. Oh no, that's your concluding set. So some companies might also struggle to manage workload. So this, if I say, it's like a rephrasal of the needing more staff part. Uh, you haven't mentioned the compensation, the remuneration, the salaries and pay scales, right? So that's missing. Otherwise, on its own, it's good. In my opinion, a 4-day work week could be beneficial if the workload is organized properly. Overall balance is the key to success. Okay, it works. it works. So, right, we do have words to spare still, right, even after including the headline. So you can very well include the point of the salary adjustment, and in you could sort of, even if it's going a bit over the word limit, I mean, you presented it well, and so I wanted to like sort of feel complete. So in this case, I would say, add more to your concluding statement. A 4-day work week could be beneficial if the workload is properly organized. So over here, we include there there is also the matter of whether workers will earn the same or less for working fewer hours per week. And so you can see that we're already over the word limit. In my opinion, a 4-day work week could be beneficial if the workload is organized properly. If workers are receive what's the word for it? A receive good compensation. In my opinion, a 4-day work week could be beneficial if the workload is properly organized. And workers receive good compensation. So I remove the full stop after properly. Overall balance is so just adding that, and so we are at 172 including the heading. But I feel this makes your article feel like more complete, which is something which is in effect we want to achieve given the type of, the way you've presented overall, right? So it's well written, and so it should feel complete as well. And yeah, so again, right, you're not going to be penalized for going over the word limit. It's all about managing your time and your writing quality. Anything you'd like to, you know, ask or add or suggest, Ima? All right, then I will return this to you. And we are done. Here you go. All updated. And so I'll see you guys tomorrow then. All right.
Hafiz.